Hello, it has been a bit. It's been a little bit of a busy and weird 2 months for me. First off, I am going to address the lighting situation. Um, the reason I haven't had a video out is because we've had some lighting problems in my room that I record in. I'm just going to go anyways. I have a lamp at the moment and it's fine. Um, Another reason, you're already going to notice from the title of this video, the Arcanist class. This was not a class that I listed prior. As a matter of fact, I originally said that the Magical Girl class was going to be the next video. Well, it was planned to, and I had moved the joke character class further back because I was planning to majorly edit it or get rid of it. I went with the option of I got rid of it. The joke character class is gone. I have it on a separate document, so for some reason it wants to come back up. I still have access to it. It's just out of the book. I have replaced the joke character with this new class, the Arcanist, which is going to be it's probably one of the most interesting and a class that I really want to play. And I'm just going to say this now. If you want to play an Arcanist, you need to be creative. That's this whole premise of this. But anyway, let's go ahead and let's just get into this video. So, I'm going to start off with the original theming idea I got for the Arcanist, because this is one that I had this idea for a while and didn't figure out how to make it work until recently. So the Arcanist's its main theming idea is being a spellcaster that can literally create their own arcane effects on the fly. That is the premise of this class. You'll understand how this works later. It has its own pool of stuff and options that you can choose if you want to, of things you can do and add on to create your own spell. Or you can also just create it as your own and you work with your DM in deciding how much this costs. Anyways, let's just get right into it. Most creatures that use magic either learn it through rigorous study, from their bloodline, or from making some pact with a powerful entity. However, some creatures can gain their magic from an understanding and major study specifically into the weave that binds all magic. Creatures that do this are known as Arcanists. Arcanists are a spellcasting class that have made a connection with the weave itself in some way, through either study or knowledge or some other supernatural means of being connected to it. And they're able to use this connection and the mana of the weave to create their own unique magical effects that fall outside the line of all your normal traditional spells and spell slots. They have their own pools, as you'll see. So, making a Arcanist quickly, you're going to want to make Intelligence your highest score, followed by Wisdom or Constitution, your choice. Then you want to choose either the Acolyte or the Sage background. An Arcanist uses a d6 for its hit dice, and has no armor proficiencies, is proficient with simple weapons and ranged weapons. They get one set of artisan's tools of their choice. Their saving throw proficiencies are intelligence and wisdom. And their skills, they can choose 2 from animal handling, arcana, deception, insight, medicine, persuasion, or perception. Your equipment you get is an arcane focus, a light crossbow and 20 bolts, a simple weapon or a dagger, and then an explorer's kit or a dungeoneer's pack. Or if you want to choose starting gold, their starting gold is 5d4 times 10. So let's get into the meat and potatoes of this thing. This is going to be a very interesting class. So, first level, level 1. Mana Manipulator, Lesser Spellcraft, and Pact Magic. Start off with Mana Manipulator. Starting at first level, you gain a mana pool. Your mana pool maximum is determined by your Arcanist level, and you regain all expended mana pool points after finishing a long rest. You also recover 1/3 rounded down of your mana pool maximum after finishing a short rest. You can expend mana as a bonus action by doing one of the following. You can spend 1 to increase your AC by your intelligence modifier until the start of your next turn. You can spend 1 to magically move yourself up to 10 feet. This movement does not provoke opportunity attacks. You can spend 1 mana to give a creature you touch advantage on their next attack roll. You can spend 2 to give yourself advantage on your next intelligence, wisdom, or charisma save. Or the most interesting one, you can spend an X amount of your mana points to roll and recover hit points equal to X amount of hit dice, expending them, where X is the amount of mana points of your choice at a maximum of your proficiency bonus. So say you're level 5, so your proficiency bonus is +3. You can't use more than 3. You can't spend more than 3 mana points when doing this as a bonus action. As that one bonus action. You can do it multiple bonus actions in a row if you want to, but you can only do so much at a time. In addition, with this feature, you can also expend mana points to cast any spell of your choice that you don't already know. The spell level determines how many mana points you expend to cast it, and you need to be able to cast a spell of that level in order to spend mana points to cast any spell of that level slot. So it costs 1 to cast a cantrip. You say it should cost 0, but you also do get cantrips. It only costs 1 because it's a cantrip that you don't know. It costs 2 for a first level, 5 for a second, 9 for a third, 13 for a fourth, 17 for a fifth, 20 for a sixth, 25 for a seventh, 32 for an eighth, and 40 for a ninth. Now, here's another thing. As a regular Arcanist, your maximum mana pool ends at 30. So going to 8th level and 9th level spells with anyone you don't know, 32 and 40, the only way you can get that is either through getting, well, you can't get another +10 from a feat. You can get from the feat I'm making for this gives you gives you 4 mana points. But you can get an 8th level to do that, but you can't get a 9th. But one of these subclasses for the Arcanist gives you a lot of extra mana points, making your mana pool total by 20th level, if you chose that subclass, 50 instead of 30. Next up is Lesser Spellcraft. This is the main feature, the secondary main feature of the class. Starting at first level, you gain the ability to create your own magical spell-like effects on a whim. These can still be counterspelled in Dispelled Magic, however. As an action, you may use your Spellcraft feature, and you may start using the following chart. Your spells that you craft always require a saving throw, the saving type to be determined by the effect you are trying to impose on the target of the spell. Currently, you can only affect one creature with the chosen range of the Spellcraft effect. When crafting a spell, you may choose effects from the table below, each individual part having different mana costs. You can purchase as much as you want to, so long as you have the mana points to buy effects of the spell. Each part of each row costs the amount as started in the mana cost section of the table. Possibly spending 1 mana to increase the spell's damage to 3d6 or 2d10, then spending another 1 to also have the spell require a save against the target becoming frightened by you. The damage types you can make the damage of your spell deal are the following: acid, cold, fire, lightning, poison, or thunder damage. In addition, you or your DM can choose to create a spell effect of your own from one of the effects that isn't on the chart below. Your DM will determine the total mana cost of the custom spellcraft you are attempting. Now, you can counterspell spellcraft. It is possible, but it's dependent on the number of mana points you put into the spell. It depends on what level the counterspell needs to be in order to counterspell it. If it's 9 or lower, a regular 3rd level counterspell will work. 10 to 13, it takes a 4th level. 14 to 17 takes a 5th. 18 to 20 takes a 6th. 21 to 25 takes a 7th. 26 to 32 takes an 8th level. And 33 to 40 takes a 9th level counterspell to counterspell that effect. And then the last thing they get at first level is Pact Magic. While you don't have you haven't made a pact with a otherworldly being like a warlock does for Pact Magic, your Pact Magic is based by your connection with the weave. well, it works just like warlocks, except that you use your intelligence instead of the warlock's charisma. So still working like warlocks. It's 1 through 5 is all you have an amount of slots equal to all of them. So you only get like 2, 3, 4 for all of them, all combined into one, but they recharge on a short rest instead of a long. Like Pact Magic does, like a warlock is. That was all just level 1. This is going to be a long video. All right. On to level 2. You get the spellcasting style and spellcraft guild. Your spellcraft guild is your subclass. Your subclass options that you have for the Arcanist at the moment are Alchemist, which is a potion-based one. The Ancient Arcanist, which is based off of raw magic, which I'm going to have an updated raw magic video soon because I'm making major changes at the moment. The Blacksmith, which is your melee version for your, spellcasting, like imagine like a Hexblade or a Bladesinger. It's their melee option. The Cartographer, which is based on teleporting and battlefield control. The Dark Arcanist, which uses black magic, and the Librarian, which is the one I mentioned earlier, which allows you to get more mana points and actually be able to save on some of your casting. It's pretty neat. Then is the spellcasting style. Starting at 2nd level, you gain access to a special style of spellcasting that makes your spells unique. You may only choose one, and once you choose it, you cannot change it. You gain more spellcasting styles at 6th and 11th level in this class. You gain one more, so you can get a total of 3 by 11. Your options are Artillery. When you cast an evocation or conjuration or spellcraft that requires a Constitution, Dexterity, or Strength save to avoid damage, all creatures in the spell's area have a -1 penalty to their save if you are at least 30 feet away from them. Or there's Attunement, which is when you cast a conjuration, evocation, or necromancy spell or spellcraft that directly deals damage, it would be affected by an anti-magic zone. You can choose to deal half of the damage the spell normally would. In return, the spell is unaffected by the anti-magic zone. Then there's Blasting, which is when you cast a conjuration or evocation or spellcraft that deals damage in a sphere or cone, you can increase the length of the cone or the radius of the sphere by 5 feet. And there's Control. When you target a creature with an enchantment spell or spellcraft that forces them to make a charisma or wisdom save, they have a -1 penalty to that save. And there's Dueling, which is when you cast a spell or spellcraft that only targets a single creature, you can add your spellcasting modifier to the damage of that roll. And there's Focus. You can add your spellcasting modifier to any concentration check you make as a result of taking damage. Or the final one, which is Melee, which is you gain a +1 bonus to melee spell attacks. Would you believe it? We're only on level 3. Luckily, that takes up like half of this document. There's a lot in level 1 and 2. Alright, level 3. Arcanist Eyes. Starting at 3rd level, you gain proficiency in the Arcana skill. If you already had proficiency in the Arcana skill, then you would gain expertise in that skill instead. If you already have expertise in Arcana for some reason, then you can choose one skill you're not proficient in and gain proficiency in that skill. In addition, anytime you are seeing a spell being cast, you can tell what level that spell is being cast at. And you also get a 30 foot of magical dark vision. So, imagine you are in some sort of wizard's duel. You cast a spell and the opposing wizard's going to counterspell it, and you want to counterspell their counterspell, but usually you wouldn't know what level they cast it, so you have to guess. A 3rd level Arcanist, once you're at 3rd level Arcanist, you're going to have counterspell at 5th, so you're going to have this already by the time you get counterspell. But by the time you get this, you can look at them as they're casting it, without expending any reaction or anything. You can just tell, oh, he just cast a counterspell at 4th level. Let's cast it higher so I don't have to roll. That kind of stuff. It works for some of it. A lot of DMs will say they're casting this spell. Sometimes they won't say the level. Sometimes you know what level it is because they say they're casting the spell. This way you always know what level the spell is being cast at, specifically for counterspells or for knowing how dangerous something could be. On to 4th level, you get ability score improvement. Everyone Everyone knows that. At 5th level, reactive spellcraft. Starting at 5th level, you may attempt a unique spellcraft as a reaction. You can only use certain effects when the prerequisites have been met, as when taking damage or a spell being cast. Each one will say. There's only 3 options here. When you take damage, you may spend 3 mana points to make the attacker take half the damage they just dealt to you. When a spell is targeting you and only you may spend 9 mana points to reflect that spell back as if you had cast the spell. And the third option is, when you see a spell being cast within 60 feet, you may spend 5 mana points to attempt to dispel the spell, treating it like the counterspell spell as if it were cast at 2nd level, not 3rd. So it's a lower level counterspell in this way, but it only costs 5 when a 3rd level spell usually is going to end up costing you 9 points. So it's a little bit cheaper. So it's also good for like, oh, it's a 2nd level, or it's a 1st level, like the Arcanist Eyes thing to let you know. You can choose if it's essentially 2nd or 1st. You can go, okay, I'll just use this feature to counterspell it. If it's above, you would know with Arcanist Eyes, you can actually counterspell it because you get this at 5th level. Then at 6th level, you get your 2nd spellcasting style. We can pick up the 2nd one of those things we talked about earlier. 7th level is a spellcraft guild feature. 8th level is your ability score improvement. Then 9th level, mana regeneration. Starting at 9th level, you gain the ability to recover spent mana points during a combat. As such, when some of the following happens, you may regain 1d4 minus 1 mana points. Those followings are when a creature within 45 feet of you dies, when you score a critical hit on a weapon or spell attack roll, or when an ally within 15 feet of you scores a critical hit on a weapon or spell attack roll. Not many options, but a little bit of options to possibly regain some mana once you're entirely spent on it. Then, going down to 10th level, Adept Spellcraft. Your spellcrafting feature has upgraded. You can now do more powerful effects, and we'll show the new chart during this section as well. In addition, you have gained new damage types if you choose to do damage. Those new damage types being Radiant, Necrotic, Force, Psychic, and Magical Piercing, Slashing, and Bludgeoning damage. It's magical in terms of overcoming resistances and immunities. So there's the new chart. You can pause if you want because we're moving on. At 11th level is Mystic Arcanum. This, yet again, works just like the Warlock. Scales up, Arcanists get up to 9th level spell slots as well. So it literally works exactly like the Warlocks. But yet again, also using, intelligence, not charisma. Level 12, ability score improvement and spellcraft guild feature. Level 13 is your 7th level Mystic Arcanum. Level 14, Mana Weaving. Starting at 14th level, you gain the ability to manipulate the mana and the weave you're connected to into physical objects. As a bonus action, you can create one of the following by spending mana points. Each of your mana creations only lasts for 1 minute and disperse if you go unconscious. Objects that are made of your mana are unbreakable, and weapons made of mana ignore resistances and immunities from non-magical weapons. By spending 1 mana point, you can create any melee weapon out of mana. By spending 1 mana point, you can create a shield made out of mana. By spending 5 mana points, you can create wings out of pure mana and light. You gain a flying speed of 30 feet. By spending 1 mana point, you can create chains of mana that can stretch out to 30 feet and are unbreakable. Just a few minor things. 15th level, Mystic Arcanum 8th level. 16th is going to be ability score. 17th is your final Mystic Arcana for getting a 1 9th level spell slot. And your final Spellcraft Guild feature. Then at 18th level, you get your Master Spellcraft, showing it right there. Things are starting to get real expensive, so don't try to stack up too much on expensive stuff. And we're going to move on to 19th. So if you want to see more, pause. 19th level is an ability score improvement, your final one. And at 20th level, your capstone feature is the Master of Mana. Starting at 20th level, you now regain twice the normal amount of mana points from your mana regeneration feature. In addition, you can now spend your reaction to add on your spellcraft effects to a willing creature's spell that they are casting. You may spend as many mana points as you wish on this reactionary spell empowerment. And then that is it. Pretty simple, not super powerful capstone feature, but real helpful for getting more mana once you're at that high level and for assisting someone else's spell. So like if someone's doing a high level spell, just toss a bunch of stuff on that if you know they've already failed. They're safe. But with that, that is everything for the Arcanist. Yet again, not going to go in depth with each of the subclasses. I'm already kind of losing my voice from this, 20-minute video. So that is the Arcanist. It is the newest made class. It's only existed for about a month and a half now. But let me know what you think about it. For our next video, we will finally be doing the Magical Girl. We actually are starting to get art for the classes, so you probably saw this at the beginning. There was going to be the Arcanist art recently made. We also have art for the Magical Girl class, which I'll just tease right here somewhere. I don't know, here, it'll be somewhere. The Magical Girl class, which is coming up, and fun fact with that one, at least with the art, actually with both. For the art, that's one of the players in the campaign I'm playing in. That is their character in that. And then, fun fact for the class, it was very recently reworked and entirely reworked out, and I actually like it a lot better than it was. Anyway, with that, I think that is a good spot to end the video. Hopefully by the next video, we'll have this light working again. We have a replacement. We just haven't done it yet. But remember to like and subscribe if you so choose. You don't have to. I'm not the boss of you. You do what you want. All you have